Governor Tim Walz. Who is he? Well, let's do a leadership analysis on him, the new vice presidential candidate pick for Kamala Harris, the current vice president. So we're going to look at Tim Waltz and examine his leadership history and some current settings and what we can expect out of this guy. So he's 60 years old. He's been in politics for 18 years, and 6 of those as the governor of Minnesota. So he's got some really good things going for him. So in the past, he's been in the Army National Guard, 24 years of an honorable career. And he was a command sergeant major when he ended his career with the Army National Guard. That is a high-ranking NCO, non-commissioned officer, but he does have one blemish. Notice how I said ended his career. So we're going to put a pin in that for now. The other traits he has going for him really well are that he is a teacher for a long time and a football coach for a long time. So those are really good leadership opportunities. And he's also really proud that he was on the coaching staff when they won their first ever state championship for his high school. Very cool things. He's had impressions upon kids, teaching, explaining information. These are all check marks, green go lights that we want to see from a leader. So he definitely checks a lot of boxes. He doesn't appear to be faithful in any religion right now. He does claim Lutheran, but the only evidence we have is going to those Christmas services. He does do some things like claim the Lutheran faith and some of their tenets and sayings when it's convenient, and he's speaking to targeted audiences. So that's not the coolest thing in the world if you're not actually faithful in your religion. But the best way to examine leaders is to examine them under the times of pressure, the times of crisis. So let's look at what we've got with Governor Walz here during those times of crisis. Well, probably his biggest time of crisis was George Floyd. Okay, he was accused, and evidentiary, it was apparent that he was very slow to respond. Minneapolis, the Twin Cities, and many areas around pretty much got lit on fire and started burning to the ground, and he was very slow in his response and his offering support to the local agencies. Basically, he let the city burn. Since then, he's passed a lot of anti-police policies, which has led the Twin Cities into a heightened crime rate. If you're going to go look at the crime statistics in Minnesota specifically, and then even more narrowed down into the Twin Cities, it has exponentially grown. I'm talking like 1,000% increase in crime and violent crime. He has one of the largest statistical increases in violent crime of any American city in history in modern times. And then, of course, he blames other people. So we're gonna look at that. The other thing that he does is after the fact, after people questioned his response, the use of the National Guard and the support and lack of support, he played the blame game. And he started blaming local departments, local agencies, and other people when he had the state troopers and the National Guard at his disposal to use. And there was a bunch of finger pointing. That is one thing I absolutely hate about leaders, that they do not own their position. So we're going to remember that one right there. Here's another one. When I said he ended his career in the military service, he originally retired, and then he re-enlisted after 9/11. That's very noble. Many people did that. He signed a 6-year term to re-enlist, and he had the rank of that command sergeant major. But he received orders in 2020. He received orders early in the year, to go ahead and make orders ready for him and his unit to deploy over to the combat zone in Iraq. And he immediately put in a resignation and left all of his people high and dry. He jumped out knowing that he was going to have to serve. So he spent years preparing his men for war and battle and leading his men. And then as soon as the letter came out that you're going to have to go deploy, he backed out. That's a big red flag. He claims a lot and he boasts a lot about his service to his country, but when it really came down to rubber meets the road, he backed out. And there's interviews you can go look online about the responses of the people that were under his command and how they felt completely abandoned by him. So it's probably one of the most defeating things that a leader can do is bail on his people. Look at my time as SWAT team leader, SWAT team assistant leader, and even just SWAT team operator. If I had been in charge of preparing men for battle, for warrants, for high-risk situations, and now's the time for us to execute an incredibly dangerous mission, say, guys, I'm out, you're on your own, and I walk away, the morale and the capability and the safety of all of those people have just plummeted to the ground. And that's exactly what he did. And this is potentially our future vice president. So you got to think about this. We have over 2 million active duty and reservists in the country, and about 7% of the U.S. population is veterans or military members, and then you amplify that by their families and loved ones. We have a huge portion of the country that's going to be watching for his explanation for what happened. He's claiming that he did it to leave office, but there was like a 1.5 year gap between resignation and his election. in 2006 to the House of Representatives. So that math is not mathing, as the kids say these days. So we have this thing called stolen valor, where people get really upset about claiming to be in the military or special forces or something like that when you were never actually in those positions. So a person in the Army could claim to be, from the airborne division, and then somebody challenges on it, and he's stealing that title, that role, that piece of valor. Well, he is claiming to have been retired as a command sergeant major, having finished his entire commitment, but he backed out 2 years early. So he ended his service. And other command sergeant majors and those under his authority at that time are pretty upset about that. And I would encourage you to look and get a good taste for that. So I don't believe that he is being chosen for his pure leadership abilities. I honestly believe that he's being chosen because he checks a lot of boxes, right? He has the teacher, the union supporter. He has the former coaching. He has the military experience. He has the prior 18 years of political he's a veteran in the political arena, understands how to play the game. So let's do another thing. Let's go ahead and do the most recent example we have. Let's examine his acceptance speech, which just came out. So it's about a 15, 16-minute speech. And here's a couple of good things. Okay, this guy is very articulate, right? He was very well-paced during his speech. He had very good animations and gestures. He engages the crowd. He waits for pauses to get laughter or to get an applaud. Okay, that's not bad. He's a pretty good orator. He's a pretty good public presence when he's on stage. He's good health for his age. He's fairly charismatic. He's not ugly. Most people really like to have a more attractive side of things. So this guy is not really bad in just fitting that mold. But here's the problem. If you look at that speech and he gives his thank yous and he gives his references to the people, he has a good first half of his speech. But then the second half of his speech, as a leader, he gets dark. He just goes to the negative stuff. He uses negative energy. He starts slipping in curse words and stuff like that, which again, precise speech and professional speech is a whole nother genre that I go down to. He praises the audience even for using curse words in their chants and says, yeah, you think just like I do. And that specific chant was a twist on the scriptures. We know the golden rule, do to others as you'd have done to yourself. Well, he twists the golden rules into a statement of curse words and then praises the audience when they chant that. So what that tells me is that we got some really big red flags here, using that negative energy, charging the group, using lies, using exaggeration, accusing people of doing things that he actually has done himself. That is not what a leader should be doing. A leader should just be painting a vision, motivating and energizing people for that future vision, that path forward. But he uses negativity, emotions, and kind of hate towards his opponent to get everybody fired up. So that's pretty stuff. So we got a little bit going on this guy that we have, okay, in just about 15 or 16 minutes, he's the type of leader that really starts to divide instead of unify. He waits historically and is indecisive and lets a city burn, and people are calling for help all along the way. And he waits to give that assistance, and people died because of his lack of decision and lack of providing resources. He blames others for his failures in both of those situations, the immediate George Floyd response and then the court cases and things about that. He blames others for their actions and even attacked the police officer, law enforcement in general, and took away their funding. During the COVID response, he was one of the most restrictive people, and he reduced people down to some of the highest levels of restriction for a very long period of time. And he claims to be pro-freedom, but literally locked people in their homes. So there's a lot of a dichotomy here where not everything adds up. And then he blames people for other failures some of them that weren't even associated with. That attack on other people, the hypocritical pointing finger at somebody when you've done the same thing, that's a huge red flag. And he claims titles and he claims roles when they're convenient or when they're not actually true in his situation. So he's not the first person to embellish some or speak in hyperbole, but he needs to be super cautious in taking the second highest office in the land of not telling the truth. And if you can't tell the truth, I tell my kids, if you can't tell the truth, then you are nothing, right? So there are a few positive qualities about this guy, but I do believe as a leadership analysis, they are going to be dwarfed by his negative qualities and his past and his decisions and the history of what he has and has not displayed as a leader. So he's definitely going to be one to watch. He's going to be coming into the spotlight here recently. There should be a vice presidential candidate debate. I think this could be very interesting to watch an Army National Guard guy versus a Marine guy and comparing service and talking about decision-making abilities. Very fun to listen to and watch, but I want to emphasize watch him. Not listen to him, because he is going to be very charismatic. He's going to say very powerful, emotionally charged words. Don't listen to that so much, but watch his actions, watch where he goes, watch how he treats people, and you're going to find out how to make a deeper analysis on your own. So thank you for watching this. If you need to see more of my leadership analysis on other people, go to csbizcon.com, or you can go to Ryan Forge's Leaders on TikTok, YouTube, or Instagram. We'll see you next time with the next analysis.